So we decided to watch all these Hellraiser movies and look back on them, chat about them.
Chatter about them.
Yeah, we got through part 1 and 2, of course, classics. But that meant that the next one was part 3. And all I got to say, folks out there, we walked into madness for you. So you better be damned appreciative about all that. But what did you think about Hellraiser 3?
I have one thing to say, and that was radical.
Yep. It's not what it was.
Nope, it was actually shit.
But that was an actual line in the movie. That was an
actual line.
And you just delivered it with
better.
Way, way better. You deserve an Oscar in comparison to the way it was delivered in this fucking shit fest.
Yep.
Look, it's evident that we love Hellraiser. I mean, just to look around my collection of stuff, you know I like Hellraiser. But I
spend like $10 trillion on Hellraiser things.
Yeah, I have tons of Hellraiser things, but I fucking hate Hellraiser 3. It is the worst. And when we finished watching the movie, aka torturing ourselves, actually being in hell in the process, we looked up the budget and some info and stuff to throw into the video should it come up. And as I was looking that up, I saw that the approval rating of the audience was pretty fucking high, 81%. Now, if that's your opinion, you like the movie, that's cool, that's you. I just don't see how the fuck.
No, that's bad.
Fuck!
Let's just say it's pretty much an unspoken rule that when we watch a movie, we don't talk.
Yeah.
For the most part.
We talked during this one.
Woo! It was...
you have no fucking choice.
You have to stay sane somehow.
Yeah, it is so abominably bad, man. In fact, the only reason I would ever in the past watch Hellraiser 3 is there's a few things in it that you need to watch Hellraiser 4, but really you don't need to watch Hellraiser 3. So, like, with the exception of the couple of times I watched it in the past, I would always skip it. And I have no regrets having done that. Having seen it again after so long, I'm like, no wonder I always skip this shit. It sucks. Because all you really need to know is the beginning and the end, and that's it. Because that's all they fucking use in part 4. Because fuck this movie. It sucks. And I'm not alone in this. Clive Barker hates this movie. He thinks it's the worst fucking thing on earth. In fact, he originally didn't even put his name on it. The only reason his name appears anywhere on it, he didn't direct this, mind you, or he didn't write it. He has a production credit, but the only reason he even has that is because he saw it, the original cut, thought it was so fucking shit that he didn't complain. But when the Weinstein, Bob Weinstein, not the other guy, but when Bob Weinstein, who bought the rights to release the movie, asked him his honest opinion, he said, "This fucking sucks." So Weinstein threw some money at him and said, "Try to fix it," which admittedly he did not do. But it's terrible, man. There's literally, we'll talk about it, but I don't think there's anything salvageable about this movie. Fuck. It's so bad. But let's get into the thrust of it all by getting what the movie's about. And I'm just going to tell you right off the top, there's hardly any plot in this movie.
No.
In fact, there is no plot in this movie. All you need to know is that the Pillar of Souls that you see at the end of part 2 crops up again. Now it's being kind of traded in an art market. Some asshole club owner that is also an art collector ends up, buying it. And so it ends up in the club. Pinhead, or the essence of Pinhead, is stuck in the Pillar of Souls, as was seen at the end of part 1. And he is alive, and he manipulates situations to...
Manipulates.
Yeah, in the worst way ever. To have himself... summoned from the fucking pillar. Yeah. Which makes no sense, because he's using the rules of people coming back from hell. And somehow that works for him now. Now it has nothing to do with... I mean, granted, he's on Earth in the pillar, but why would that work for him? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, JP ends up being kind of a stooge, and JP being the club owner, the asshole art collector club owner, he ends up being a stooge, and he, gives them the proper amount of fucking people to chomp on. And,
which is one, by the way.
Yeah, apparently. And, Pinhead.
No, just call him Hellraiser.
Yeah, might as well.
Hellraiser comes out.
He's not the fucking lead Cenobite. He's not Pinhead. He's just, he's fucking Hellraiser, a dumbass version of him.
Yep.
He comes out of the fucking pillar and then just causes chaos for the rest of the movie. And by causes chaos, I mean
walks around
fucking blowing shit up and psychically moving shit everywhere, and nothing looks good.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, that's literally the fucking plot. There is no fucking plot. We have this other plot line that interweaves with it, with this female character named Joey, who is a reporter that sees the first effects of the Pillar of Souls being tampered with, and she kind of, is doing a little sleuthing of her own. So that leads us to uncover what's going on and finding out that, the soul of the man that was joined with the Pinhead has been separated from the id, the pure evil version of Pinhead. So there's Spencer, and then there's Pinhead. And Spencer's in limbo, and Pinhead's on Earth, and he wants to conquer Earth now because reasons. Limitations of hell, blah, 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 now I'm on Earth.
Apparently, the one thing I learned from this movie was that the pure Pinhead without the human side is just an idiot and sucks.
Yeah, he's fucking terrible, dude. He lacks any subtlety.
Yeah.
I mean, you can attribute that to the script and the direction, but just in general, even the actor couldn't bring any of the finesse that fucking Pinhead, emanated in the other two. He's blunt and stupid,
and he's got like no presence.
I like that part where he's trying to get our Joey, our main character.
That's the best part.
To give him the box.
And it's been established that he's like a manipulating little...
Yeah, they make sure he's going to manipulate you and trick you.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, well, we know that because we've seen the other two movies. You don't have to tell us that, but whatever. And but they make sure and pound that in. And his version of manipulation is, he's soft-spoken at first. He's trying to, I guess, convince her verbally and calmly that she should give him the box. Although, why would anyone give a pin-headed, pale beast anything? And, she's not falling for it. So the next line is him being pissed off as fuck, screaming at her.
Yep.
And then wondering why she doesn't give him the box.
And then he reaches for the box and gets hurt.
And he knows he's going to get hurt.
Yes.
Oh, fuck. He's stupid as fuck, man.
Well, then again, she was an idiot too. Why did she take the box?
Why did she take the box? She was just warned in a dream that she should not let him get a hold of the box. But, hey, look. And then really her motivation to go to this club fucking sucks. Really her motivation was news story.
Yeah.
Because she calls her friend, her
John
camera
Carpenter
guy, who looks like rip-off John Carpenter, to go get this story with her. What the fuck? Haven't you learned anything? No. Anyway, let's get into what really makes this movie suck, besides everything we've already mentioned. The biggest fucking thing about this movie, the biggest mark against it, are the actors.
Woo!
The absolute worst cast of people you can imagine. Not even, like I said previously, not even Doug Bradley.
Nope.
Who is always...
Even he sucked.
His presence is always a big part of what makes any Hellraiser movie anything. All of that is gone. He's stripped bare of any of that potency in his just being there and his line delivery. And this goes to show...
even the way he sounds, he doesn't have the voice presence.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
Yeah, and his lines are fucking terrible. He doesn't get into punning territory and, jackassy lines like Chenard did, thankfully. But that doesn't mean his lines are good. They're just bad. And even when they're good, they're not delivered in a way that communicates anything but, man, this is uninspired as shit.
Mm-hmm.
And... yeah, man, but he's the best one. But you know how usually if you see a really good movie with good actors in it, it becomes fascinating because you see them make each other better by just being around each other, by just playing off of each other. Because they say acting is reacting. And it shows. Like if Daniel Day-Lewis is in your movie, everybody's going to go up a notch just to keep on his level or try to keep on his level. That's just the way it works. So here, we have Doug Bradley, who was the best actor of the bunch, but he's hardly interacting with anybody, so you can't really count him. He's kind of on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Even though he's in this movie way too much, he's kind of in the sidelines because he rarely interacts with people. So instead, we have a bunch of bad actors interacting with other bad actors, and it becomes the opposite of a good movie.
About halfway in, I was like, man, this is like a competition
to
see who's the worst actor.
And oh my god, it's terrifyingly bad. The worst one being our main character, Joey, who is a female, by the way, despite what the name might tell you. She's terrible. She's the worst. Now, Wooden doesn't do it justice.
She's not good.
Yeah, the delivery, nothing's delivered the way it should be.
Nope.
Ever. Not once. Especially when she's supposed to be scared or reacting, to a serious situation. God forbid somebody attack her. Her fucking reactions are terrible there too. Nothing about her.
I walked into madness for you.
Yes, oh my god, the lines. Already the lines aren't that great, and then they're exponentially made worse by the way she delivers them.
Let's say there's a line after Pinhead tricks her. She goes, "You bastard, you invaded my mind."
You bastard, you invaded my mind.
And then you want to die when it happens.
Yeah, man, it's soul shriveling. And she's bad. There's a character named Terry, a female that is going out with the nightclub owner. She's bad, but you go, Joey is so bad that you kind of admire Terry for a second because you're like, at least she's not that fucking bad.
Camerahead, though.
Yeah, Camerahead, a.k.a. Joey's cameraman, who eventually becomes a Cenobite called Camerahead. Worst Cenobite ever.
He's horrid.
Worst, man.
He's probably the worst.
I don't know. Look, in the original script, he didn't even have that. I don't even remember if he had... Yeah, he had lines. But he was irrelevant. He didn't even become a Cenobite in the script. Oh, man. Why would you give this guy more screen time?
I know, he's already horrible.
Why? And then make him the guy that shoots out these puns.
Yeah.
The moment he's a Cenobite, he's
punning it up.
Puns like
ready
crazy.
For your close-up.
Oh, man.
Also, well, we'll get to the effects. I want to mention his ear.
We'll get there. We're talking about these actors that stunk. Oh, my God, man. Okay, we have... okay, we mentioned Camerahead, which is one of the Cenobites. Hold on, let me get a somewhat decent... That's fucking shit. But anyway, this actor fucking sucks. And, okay, we have our main character, which is terrible. Our supporting character, which is terrible. Our kind of bad guy, JP. He was serviceable, but he was still fucking horrid.
He's bad, but he's one of the least bad.
Yeah, I actually... This is not to say this is a positive thing, but I laughed at some of the ways he delivered lines because you got a feeling that maybe if they pushed him a bit more, he could have at least been something in this movie that wasn't complete ass. But
he was complete.
He's ass.
Yeah, he's ass.
Don't get me wrong.
Big time ass.
He's fucking balls, in fact.
Yep.
It is worthy to mention that this movie has a few cameos. Barbie, the barman in the club where... When Pinhead finally comes out of the Pillar of Souls, he basically rains chaos on this club and kills everyone, and then for some reason turns a few into Cenobites. Never explained why or whatever.
It's not even shown.
It's not even shown. Some of it doesn't even make sense, like Camerahead, but whatever. We'll talk about that right now. But he turns one of them into this guy right here, the bartender Cenobite. That's right, a bartender-themed Cenobite. Yep. And that guy was played by Pete Atkins, who wrote the script. Now, before you go, fuck Pete Atkins, he wrote the script for Part 2, and he wrote the script for Part 3, which are pretty good movies. I mean, I'm sorry, for Part 2 and 4, which are pretty good movies. He wrote this one, but we'll get into why we shouldn't shit on him too much. That being said...
We should shit on his acting, because damn.
I mean, he didn't really act. He shook a few lines.
He was waiting, though. Remember?
Yeah, well, that's more because... of the way the movie was directed.
Everything was stiff.
He sucked. Don't get me wrong. He sucked, but he didn't really act per se. He walked around, and I believe it was him in the makeup, and his body language sucked as Barbie.
It was bad.
He just looked like a old fucking woman with a big ass. That's how he walked.
And you know he would do this a lot for some reason.
Yeah, and shake his little fucking mixer. Ah, man, it fucking sucked. Anyway. The long story short of this is every actor in this is abominable. The exception being Doug Bradley, but even he is dragged down to the
Wait,
pits of hell.
You gotta mention the other cameo.
The other cameo?
The director.
Oh, fuck. Fuck me.
You didn't notice it?
I mean, it's not an actor, but it is a cameo. He's in there for a second. At one point, one of our characters is flipping through the television. Camerahead, in case you gotta know, is flipping through the television. And the director of this fucking shitfest has the audacity to shove his face in here like Hitchcock would.
You know what my favorite part of it was? That he felt the need to have his name underneath his face.
Yeah.
Because otherwise no one would know who this loser is.
Yeah, and then on top of that, under his name, director.
Yep.
You know, I would be embarrassed to put my name anywhere near. It's a fucking shame. It's a damned shame. It's a nut-ripping shame that the director of Part 4, Kevin Yeager, who had his vision messed with, got so mad that they fucked with his structure that he took his name off the movie and Alan Smithied it. But this asshole makes a legitimate piece of garbage and he has the audacity to stick his face in there like he did something cool.
Yep.
Like he's worthy. Fuck you, man. Say what you will about M. Night Shyamalan, but at least at one point he earned the right to be in his movies. To do that little tip of the hat to himself. This fucking asshole deserved a mallet dildo up his bunghole, man. He sucks. I hate Anthony Hickox. And in case you think my hatred is unfounded, he's directed nothing but shit. Except for Waxwork, the first one, which was actually pretty good. Then he ruined that by directing Part 2, which sucked my dick off. Now, just to close off this chapter on actors, you want to know why most of these people sucked? Because he just hired friends.
Oh. That makes sense.
Now, mind you, a lot of them were actors. But fuck you, man. If you can't act, I don't give a shit if you're my bud. I'm not putting you in this movie. You suck. And he handpicked Joey.
No.
He said, this thing hinges on her.
She's horrible.
He handpicked Terry, which granted is better than Joey, but fuck me, man. He went out of his way to cast these people in the roles. Everybody.
Ooh.
Fuck Anthony Hickox, man. I wanted to say fuck the casting director, but he picked picked the people.
It was his fault.
Fuck that guy, man. Fuck him. God, I hate him, dude. I want to punch his nuts.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
Anyway, we're talking about
blow your gasket, then come back as gasket head.
Speaking of gasket heads, we're going to talk about the characters, but mainly the Cenobites, because the other characters we kind of covered in terms of the
really
actors.
Not much I had to add to them.
Yeah, they're just blank paper characters.
Yep.
But the Cenobites, here we have a new round of Cenobites because the original Cenobites were killed in Part 2. So they're gone, which is unfortunate. And when I first read about this movie, I was kind of excited because they had given Bob Keane and his effects company, which includes Gary J. Tunnicliffe, which eventually went on to be the effects guy for every movie subsequent to this. And Bob Keane had worked on the previous two. They gave them the go-ahead to create original Cenobites. Because some of them were vaguely described in the script. But, example, CD and Barbie here are original creations. There was nothing in the script to designate them as a specific Cenobite. So they just created these. These are the ones they created.
So it's a perfect example of sometimes you shouldn't give the effects guy full reign.
But then again, the ones that were already there were Camerahead and fucking the Terry Cenobite and the JP Cenobite. Now let's fucking shit.
Piston Head, you mean?
Look,
there's a lot of heads in this.
The previous Cenobites, I wouldn't say they had a practical use to the way they appeared, but that makes sense with what they're supposed to be. You know, they pursue pleasure and pain intermingled in the flesh. You know, so the torture met upon their bodies almost is artistically beautiful and how grotesque it is. It makes sense. They don't have to have a gimmick.
You don't even gotta go. Before you continue. You don't even gotta go that extra mile. They just look cool.
Yeah, they just look cool. On
the plainest of levels, they look cool, and they work in that other way.
Yeah.
This, on the other hand,
superficially they work. and on a deeper level they work. These fucking pieces of shit in part 3, they tried to make sense of why gimmicks, they were. Yeah. So they were wrestling gimmick Cenobites.
Pretty much.
And it fucking sucked. So when Pinhead goes ballistic and causes pandemonium in the club, he creates a few Cenobites. Why? I don't know. I guess he needed some cronies. I guess really they just wanted more Cenobitic action in the fucking scene. And according to that meeting with Bob Weinstein and Clive Barker, that's what the studio wanted. They said, put more shit in this. So that's probably why we got more Cenobite action and more stupid gore. We'll talk about that right now. But so the Cenobites we get, they try to make them logical, but they just turn out to be completely illogical because of that. So the cameraman is turned into a camera head.
Despite having his head cut off. In the previous scene.
Yeah. During the massacre at the club, his head is cut off. Now that's fine.
Yeah.
You could sew that sucker back on, and he could still be a Cenobite.
Like chain it or something.
It's anything, but he doesn't. There's no stitches on his neck. Nothing. He's just intact, except for a few gashes on his stomach for some reason. And now he's got a camera literally in his head.
Yep.
That shoots out a lens.
Yep.
As a weapon for some reason. I half expected lasers to come out of this fucking thing.
You know what? That would have been better.
Son of a bitch.
He also has an unexplained hose that goes from his nipple down to his up to his head.
Yeah, what the fuck is that thing?
Freaking know.
I don't understand. I don't get. And they kept his handlebar mustache.
Yeah,
man.
they kept the mustache.
Fuck?
No Cenobite can pull off a mustache.
Dude, these things have been hairless forever.
Why does he have a mustache?
What is this guy? I mean, granted, he was made on the fly. But what the fuck, dude?
But they shaved everything else from all the other characters. Didn't he have long hair?
Yes.
Why the hell does he have his mustache still?
Yes. Good point. What the fuck is with the mustache?
It sucks donkeys.
And we're led to believe, especially in the extended mythologies, that Pinhead's creativity and ambition is the greatest that hell has ever seen. That's why he holds such a high position. This is the fucking Cenobites he makes.
I do want to say that later on they do try to justify it by going, they were made on the fly. They're a little bit rough. Not as cool as my previous guys. You're like, stop trying to justify your shitty designs, dude.
I get the feeling that line was added.
Yeah.
Like somebody knew this fucking sucks, dude. We gotta clean this shit up. Put this line in there.
Sadly, this could have been a cool idea of like him just making quick, disposable gash guys. But they suck.
Yeah. And then it violates the idea that
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're supposed to be worthy of becoming a Cenobite.
That's what I'm saying.
These fuckers are just assholes.
It would have been cool if he had made them, but they weren't Cenobites. They were just like goons.
Yeah.
That look cool. Instead, they're Cenobites and they suck.
Yeah. So let's move on from fucking Camerahead, dude. I hate him. Anyway.
Pistonhead.
Camerahead. Oh, you wanted to mention that he had fucking shit.
Well, I was going to do that in the effects, but we'll
mention that here because he sucks so bad. On top of having the worst Cenobitic look, one of his ears was an animatronic, and it for some reason kept moving up and down.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
He shot out his pun, and his little ears started wiggling.
It sucked.
So someone was like, we're going to make this ear wiggle, and it's going to be cool.
The other fucking Cenobites we have are CD the DJ, because in the club where Pinhead finally goes ballistic, there's a DJ guy spinning CDs, I guess. And somehow, telepathically, supernaturally, I don't know, Pinhead makes his CDs hover around his head.
By the way, people are dying all around him. CDs start hovering around his head, and he has zero reaction.
Yeah, he's just staring.
Yeah.
Like this. Anyway, these CDs fucking fly into his skull, and he's dead, but then, of course, he's brought back later as CD the DJ, a guy who has, like, 5 hawk instead of a mohawk of CDs, and a CD in his mouth, and then the worst part... No, actually, I said the second to worst part is he has a CD tray in his chest that fucking actually ejects, and he throws CDs from there.
But the worst part
is, for some reason, when he moves, he makes robotic movement.
He's like a robot. He's like a robot now. He's like,
and he's the only one. Yep. There's other people with mechanical components. Camerahead. What is it?
Pistonhead.
Pistonhead. You hear the sounds of his pistons.
Oh yeah, but still.
Why does he get this robotic gimmick? I don't understand. He sucks. And sadly, he's the best one.
Yeah.
But he's terrible. Then we got Barbie, who's just a fucking bartender. A fat... He wasn't fat as a bartender.
Yes, exactly. He wasn't fat.
He was just a guy, man.
He was just a normal...
But all of a sudden, he's a fat, big-butted woman. And he's got barbed wire around his face. I guess from one of the art pieces in the club. I don't know why, but anyway.
Yeah,
and he shoots fire from his mouth.
Move, remember?
Why does he shoot? Yeah, why does he shoot fire from his mouth? I don't know. Because of the
I
alcohol, I guess. I don't understand. But anyway, and he has his little vodka mixer that he launches. And oh my god!
Oh, this was the best.
Look. When I say the actors are bad, I don't just mean the main cast. Everyone. The supporting actors are fucking terrible. So Barbie is on the attack. On the rampage with his fellow Cenobites. And there's these cops. Oh my god, these cops are terrible to begin with. Bad. And Barbie shakes his little vodka mixer and we're like, why is this happening? And he throws it onto the cops. And one of the cops says, what?
She goes, gasoline.
That's way better than it was in the movie.
Yeah.
Gasoline. And then
it might have been like "Watch out, gasoline"
or some shit.
It
like
was
that.
It was horrible.
It was horrible, and then they cut to Barbie breathing fire in the worst angle ever, by the way. And then it cuts back to the cops, and they're doing like this weird movement reaction, and you're like, "What is that? Who?" Oh my god, it's so bad. Anyway, Barbie fucking sucks. Then we have Pistonhead, which is just JP, the club owner, who. When he gets killed...
It doesn't make sense.
Okay, fucking shit, dude.
Well, first of all...
Why does...
First of all, Pinhead only needs one more person to come into this realm.
Somehow, even though he hasn't changed dramatically.
Yeah. So JP is getting chicks to go, or gets that chick to go in there, and he's trying to like manipulate her to get close to the pillar. And one of the most cringiest scenes of all time. Anyway, he eventually gives up. Pinhead's like, yo, give me him instead because he's knocked down on the floor because she had to show off her brass knuckles before she hit him. So then she pushes him near Pinhead in the longest period of all time I've ever seen in a movie where nothing happens. Pinhead grabs him and kills him, and suddenly he spawns like a piston out of nowhere
and jams it into his head. This entire scene makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
Like you said, first of all, we have to assume, and that's fine. Sometimes we have to assume things in movies. We have to assume that he's fed Pinhead since the first time that the Pillar of Souls Pinhead version sucked in one of his sexual conquests. We have to assume he fed him more. But even if he did, he hasn't changed. It's just the head moving.
Yeah.
Everything is still a pillar, is still a solid pillar. Then he calls in Terry, his old girlfriend, weasels her back into his place. And yeah, like you said, the worst manipulation ever to get her close to the pillar. He's kind of schmoozing on her, playing on her emotions. And he tells her to come give him a hug. Or rather, she asked for a hug, right? And then he's like, no, that's not fair. You got to come to me. Why?
And then he goes,
you're just painting yourself as an asshole. Yeah. And then that, okay, whatever. And he just keeps going at it.
This scene is so long.
Yeah, like, dude, why would that... It would be easier to just go over there, grab her, and throw her at the pillar.
It would be easy for freaking Pinhead just to grab him.
Well, that's the thing. He made a pact with him. Okay.
But then he broke it.
That's fine. Yeah, well, that's a whole nother thing. But he made a pact with him, so I guess he's trying to keep the honor of that pact. We can argue that. I'm pretty sure they didn't even think of that, but whatever.
No, they definitely didn't.
The point is, apparently he just needs one more, even though he hasn't changed one bit. She gets over there. He drags her over there. Finally, that would have been easier to begin with. Yeah, we get that. What the fuck? All of a sudden, insert shot of her having brass knuckles. From where?
I don't know.
Did she have them on her pants? It doesn't. I don't know.
It just holds for like a couple seconds.
It holds way too long, and then she knocks him out, and then we get this long fucking sequence, dude,
with her trying to push him towards.
Yeah.
And this whole entire time, we're like, this freaking pillar can shoot out chains. Why Worst range of all time on this thing. The flip.
And the sad part is she doesn't even get him that close, and the chains shoot out.
Yeah.
And you're going, all right, well, the chains were close to the ground. No, they also shoot up from atop the pillar.
Not to mention that earlier when he skins that chick, they go from like across the damn room almost.
Yeah, man, it made no fucking sense. Just eat the fucking guy already. Anyways, fucking Pinhead comes out of that. And, the pistons are shoved into JP's head.
We don't know where he gets the pistons.
Yeah, the pistons come from nowhere. Maybe one of the art pieces, but there's not that many other than actual paintings.
They don't show it, so it's just him shoving a piston in someone's head.
Where did these pistons come from? Anyway, he seems to die, but of course later he comes up as a Cenobite that appears out of fucking nowhere.
Yep.
At the last scene, after our main character has run God knows how long away from the other Cenobites, and he's just there. But so is the chick, who is also turned into a Cenobite, and her gimmick, oh my freak. Dude,
she smokes.
She basically looks like a shitty version of Lady Cenobite or female Cenobite from part 1 and 2.
Really shitty version.
Like a really awful version. But in her neck larynx gash, she has a fucking cigarette.
Yep,
and she burns people with it. Worst fucking crap. Oh my god.
There's this scene where her and Pistonhead are taunting the main character, and she's literally just burning her with a little cigarette.
Yeah. I mean, 2 burns max on the cigarette.
It's like, dude, that's not even gonna hurt.
Yeah, you're gonna get the ash, dusted off, or it's not gonna work past 1 or 2 times.
Unless this is like some sort of Cenobite cigarette.
Yeah, some sort of hell.
And also Pistonhead's like thrusting at her, and then at one point he brings out like a baton and does nothing with it.
Yeah. Well, they're not supposed to hurt her because.
Yeah, but at least like. You're already going like this, burning her and shit. At least like hit her in the knees and wait for Pinhead.
It's there's no use in trying to justify it. It just sucks. Oh man, it fucking sucks. Anyway, let's talk about the. Normally we talk about action in this movie, but in the terms of a horror movie, we got to talk about the set pieces. But before we get to the set pieces, or rather in conjunction with that, we got to talk about some of the shots in this movie. This director, Anthony lame-ass Hickox, clearly thought he was putting in some cool-ass shots. Because there's some angles and some little setups that make you go, he thought that was cool. He thought that was going to look good.
It just looks shitty and cheap.
Yeah. The like, at one point, JP asked the bartender to give him a rose for a girl. Oh,
man.
And the camera, it comes, first they show the rose being picked out from a little freezer, but then the camera, the next shot is behind the bartender, and he's holding the rose out in the weirdest. Yeah. Nobody holds the rose like that.
It seems like they had shot this like 1,000 times, and everybody just didn't care anymore, and they were being really careful not to mess up the scene.
Well, it
just looked like shit.
I gotta reveal something for you about that, but it does look that way.
Right? It's so like stiff.
It was so staged and stiff. Yeah. And it happens more than once. Where we get our main character holding out the box, and it's shot at such an angle to give you the impression that
it happens a lot with Pinhead. Like he's in the foreground and everything's like in the back.
Yeah,
looks shitty.
He just does this several times. He's oh my god, when JP reaches into the pillar and a fucking rat. For some reason, there's a rat inside the pillar.
I don't know why.
They could have done that so many ways. Like his hand phases into complete darkness, and just the fact that it's inside something supernatural hurts him. But nope, there's a fucking rat.
Just have it like a little chain because they had to get the blood out.
Yeah, it doesn't. Of him, it doesn't. It could have been 1,000 ways.
Anything else? Why is there a fake ass rat?
Yeah, he pulls out his hand. A rat, the fakest rat on earth, is attached to it, and then the way they shoot it is like, man, that was supposed to look cool.
Yeah.
He thought that looked cool, and it doesn't. It looks like complete shit. It looks fucking shitty, dude. And he did that so many times throughout the movie that it just got laughably bad. Whereas at first it was groan-inducingly bad. It was just like, god damn it, this guy, fucking Anthony Hickox, thinks he's cool, man.
Yep.
And he's not. And that's coming from a couple of guys that are not cool.
Yep.
At all. I can tell you we're cooler than Anthony Hickox. He fucking sucks. Shots, man. Anyway. The fucking set pieces in this. It's not really worth mentioning every one because they're all terrible.
Yeah.
But I will mention the big, quote-unquote, horror action set piece in this. And that's the Boiler Room Massacre. One when Pinhead finally comes out of the pillar, he basically slaughters everyone in the boiler room using chains and a variety of other attacks that I guess he can do now. And what you think about this little scene right there?
It was pretty good. I like the part where he turns into ice.
Oh my god!
For no reason, but not only turns into ice, he lifts the ice. The ice horribly turns into his face. He laughs.
Then
it shoots into a
stalactite
into a person's mouth, and then they fall, and it just looks like plastic.
And it's done with digital effects and
early 90s,
a mixture of early 90s, 1992 to be precise, early 90s digital effects, and then mixed with physical effects, and both of them look terrible.
Yep.
Both of them look awful. Well, why would he need to do that? He could just literally chain everybody, rip skins off like he's wanting to do. But instead, he has to get creative with every kill. The CDs shooting into people.
There's a guy that has like not bowling balls, pool balls in his mouth.
Pool balls in his mouth.
It's just like shit. Before this, though, stuff like weird stuff starts happening in the establishment, the fine establishment known as the boiler room, and you get like a little statue coming to life and looking at Barbie, and it's covered in barbed wire, and I was just like, that looks corny.
Yep.
And then there's this like statue holding a little heart, and suddenly it's alive. But they go from the actual statue to like just a painted hand going like this. Looks corny.
Yeah.
Everything looks corny as shit.
The weird thing is some of these elements could have worked had they been
lit well or like shot
forget
well.
Lighting, forget all that stuff. Just the atmosphere had to be different. Yeah. And the atmosphere was not different. Or it was different from the other two.
But it sucked.
But it was the wrong type of atmosphere. So it just looks,
corny.
Incredibly cheesy, hammy, and awful. You can get away with bad effects or stuff that doesn't quite completely hit the mark in terms of quality effects work, as long as the message is conveyed, and considering the way it was done, doesn't work at all.
Nope.
Coincidentally, I'm glad you mentioned that, by the way, when originally this movie was going to be directed by the guy that directed Part 2, Tony Randall. In fact, he co-wrote it with Peter Atkins, who was Barbie. But anyway,
right.
It was originally going to be directed by him, but after the trouble of production that it went through, that fell through. And somewhere along the way, somebody suggested Anthony Hickox, and Clive Barker was like, no, I don't like his previous work. That should have been signed right there.
Yep.
Stop. But they were adamant on having Hickox come in and do this because he was a friend to somebody in the production.
Of course.
This friend thing got to stop in this movie, by the way. So he gets hired, and Clive Barker actually had a meeting with him where he said, look, dude, I don't like your fucking work. It sucks. Can you please take this seriously? And Hickox said, yeah, for sure. It's safe to say he didn't.
Nope.
Because there's a lot of jokey lines in this fucking movie. And on top of that, he got none of the atmosphere correct, which ties into what we were talking about. None of it. None of it works because none of that is right.
There's a lot of like
camp
weird,
galore,
corny, like music that doesn't fit well. It's just
nothing fits.
No, nothing fits well.
Nothing fits with any other movie in the series, even the shitty ones.
Yeah.
This is the shittiest of the shitty ones, and it doesn't even fit in with the other shitty ones. Fuck, he sucks, dude. I hate Anthony Hickox. I want to punch him in the nuts.
Yep.
Anyway, now that we've kind of glossed over this subject for a while, but we've touched on it, let's get into the meat of it, and that's the effects. It's the same guy from the other two movies, Bob Keane, and he had a decent staff under him. And on top of that, he had Gary J. Tunnicliffe, who's gone on to do some pretty great work in some movies that, whose quality is up and down, as the rest of the series progresses. So we know that Tunnicliffe can do good work. We know that Keane can do work. But did it work out here?
Nope, not at all.
Nothing.
It's freaking everything looked like shit.
You know how even the not so realistic effects in Part 1 and 2 worked?
Yeah, they're fine.
Because there's just an amazing quality. There's something that always makes your mind go, how did they do that? Even though clearly it's not real. You don't get none of that here.
Nope.
All you do is go, man, that's fake.
Yep.
That fucking sucks. That's terrible. None of the effects work here. Not even the little skin effects work. Nothing.
Plus, they use a lot of digital shit. I wouldn't say a lot, but more than they should have. And all that looks like shit.
Did you know that was added after the fact?
Yeah.
That was when Bob Weinstein met with fucking Clive Barker and said, so what do you think? Because I'm thinking this is a stinker scene. And Barker said, yeah, it is. And then they went out and shot a club in Chicago.
Yep.
And, went to the speakeasy. But anyway, yeah, man, that was actually part of the post-production editing process that went on in terms of not editing as in cutting the picture together, but, re-editing the fucking movie. They added digital effects to this thing.
I mean...
which only made it worse.
Yeah.
It did not fix anything.
Nope.
The physical effects are atrocious. Nothing looks good. The Cenobites look terrible.
Yep.
They apparently made
It's not even just like the designs are bad. Like, the actual makeup doesn't look
good.
Yeah. It looks like shit.
On top of the designs being awful, yes, you're absolutely right. The makeup looks... it doesn't look real. It just yeah, I mean, you can't even call it prosthetic. It just looks awful.
Like, Pinhead looks shitty somehow.
Pinhead looks awful, and they made a new suit and makeup getup for him to get him in the makeup quicker.
It looked cheap.
It looked cheap, and apparently it was horribly uncomfortable for him.
All right.
So there was no winning from that. It just sucked. But he's the best looking effect in this thing, and the rest are just exponentially more and more terrible. They're fucking bad, man. Like I said, not even little things like the skin being pulled from the flesh or nothing like that. Not even that looks good. And you'd think that would be like perfected by that point, but nope. It's just... it's atrocious. And again, bad effects can be forgiven if there's enough creativity, enough fun being had. If you can feel the spirit of the film really, excite you. But by the time the effects come out in their full fury in this movie, you're just pissed that this movie exists.
Yep.
So it makes it 10 times worse. And the digital stuff,
it's bad.
Inexplicably bad digital.
Bad.
It's explicably bad because it was the early 90s and it still wasn't perfected.
There's a part at the end with freaking Pinhead
merging with Spencer.
That looks horrible.
Yep.
Then again, the physical shit looked worse in that scene.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand why they would be like,
tool with
look this. Freaking looks like shit. And then like, what's face, human head coming through and like, warping and it was bad.
Yeah, the big balloon warp.
Freaking cringy.
Yeah, like TV level CGI.
Yeah.
Early CGI TV level shit. Just the worst of the worst effects in this entire series. And considering some of these movies have been made for less than $1 million, that says a lot.
Yep.
And we
haven't seen the previous one before this one.
Even then.
It'll probably be better, despite Pinhead
I can't imagine
fat.
it being worse than this. Yeah, I can't imagine the effects being worse than this. It's atrocious. It's a complete loss of any coolness that they could have.
Yep.
Basically, the only thing they had going for them was, all right, your movie sucks, but are the effects cool?
Nope.
It just sucks.
And it's like right away too. Like the first effect, you're like, oh no.
Yeah, this is not good.
His head exploding looks like shit.
Anyway, fucking sucks, dude.
We gotta talk about the sound.
Yeah, the sound design in this fucking movie is strange. Go ahead and...
It's horrible. There's scenes where it's important for you to hear what people are saying. You can't hear shit. The entire time I was putting up the volume and lowering it. Because like some scenes will be super loud. And then other scenes will be like... Yeah. And it's like the important scenes that you have to listen to what they're saying. There's scenes with Pinhead talking and there's music playing in the background. It's supposed to be like atmospheric, but you can't hear the music.
Yep.
And whatever they did to Pinhead's voice sounds like shit. It doesn't sound like him. It doesn't sound like Pinhead. There's no presence. It sucks. There's like this weird dubbing issue throughout the whole movie where everybody sounds dubbed.
Yep.
And it's like really bad dubbing. Everybody's super loud when you don't want them to be loud, but quiet when you want them to be loud. It's freaking horrendous. Like, this is some of the worst sound design I've seen in a movie, on a horror movie of all time.
And but there is one amusing part of that horrid sound design, And it's the fact that certain things in the movie are given the loudest sound cues of all time.
Yep.
Like at one point, somebody flicks on a lighter.
And it's like...
Yeah, for some reason it's like in THX surround sound for some reason.
There's a part where the douche guy picks up a gun, and for some reason this Desert Eagle gun sounds like a shotgun.
Yeah.
It's like, what the flip?
Like, what the hell, man?
And once you notice it, that's all you can hear because it's freaking raping your ears every 2 seconds. You can't hear anything else.
It's pretty fucking bad. But I will say just noticing those little stupid touches kind of kept me entertained because at this point I wanted to tear my hair out.
Yeah.
And become a Cenobite apparently. But yeah, man, what was up with that sound design? I don't get it. Fuck.
Can't really talk about the music because we couldn't hear it.
We can talk about the music because it's relevant. One, yes, the sound design is so terrible that you can't hear the music half the time. But the worst part about this movie is that they got rid of the orchestral score. They got rid of Christopher Young. They kept one or two of his themes, mainly the Pinhead theme.
Yeah, you hear that a lot. Or hear that.
Yeah, the sound design is so terrible. Maybe it's better now that they've remastered the movie for that Scarlet box that they released. But it won't make a difference because the movie sucks. And on top of that, the majority of the time, there's heavy metal rock selections throughout this. And it's
corny.
At times, fine. They're in the club and that's cool, but it still doesn't work.
Nope.
You know? And yet, at the same time, the best part about this movie is seeing one, Armored Saint in a movie. That's fucking weird. And two, hearing the cornylicious Hellraiser song from Motorhead at the end.
Yep.
Because you're like, well, fuck, I might as well get something out of this. And, yeah.
That being said, I would much rather watch the Hellraiser music video in which Pinhead plays chess with Lemmy than watch this movie ever again.
It's a better Hellraiser fucking anything than this bullshit movie.
Yep.
I fucking hate it, dude. Now, I'm going to mention something real quick because I forgot to mention it earlier, but I think it's worthy of being mentioned, and that is the scene in the club. Excuse me. When the chaos breaks out. Peter Atkins would later in the late 90s, early 2000, write a movie called The Wishmaster with Andrew Divoff and fucking Tony Todd and Robert Englund in it and stuff. And it's kind of considered, a B movie classic. It's real fun, a gore fest for sure, tongue-in-cheek, what have you. Has a lot of fans and for good reason. Now, I'm talking the original Wishmaster, the first one, not some of the sequels, which are fucking terrible. But anyway, he wrote that. And I think maybe there's a scene where the djinn in the Wishmaster movie basically makes pandemonium break out at a dinner party. I think that was his way of making up for the fucking shit that they made out of that similar scene in Hellraiser 3, because the one in Wishmaster works. The kills are creative. They look cool. They're fun to watch. They're disgusting at times. And they're way more effective than anything that happens, especially the eyes thing in the pandemonium sequence at the boiler room in Hellraiser 3. Fucking terrible sequence. And to top it all off, after everybody's dead, there should be blood everywhere. But when Joey goes to the club, everybody's just kind of lying around.
It's like the longest scene ever, too, of her. I mean, we see this in horror all the time. Like, people walk in, it's supposed to be like tense because you don't know when something's gonna pop up. But there's zero freaking
no tension.
No tension. So it's just long and boring.
Yeah.
And then Pinhead freaking makes spotlights come on and is like, "Hey, you want to give me that box?" And she's like, "No, dude." And he's like,
the king of subtlety,
"Then you gotta give it to me." And then he gets mad and starts screaming and shit. And then later she's like, "You invaded my mind," when he does like one trick that sucked, by the way. And oh my god, let's talk about that. When he invades her mind and uses her dad, and he's like, "I heard you got something for me," and she just gives him the box. Like, the flip, dude.
Now this happens in movies a lot where somebody is
so
tricked.
Horribly done.
Yeah, but it's so bad that you're like, come on, man. Even my non-sentient butt ring can figure out that this guy is Pinhead.
Even my retarded cousin who's listening to Cumbia Kings right now knows that that's Pinhead. I don't have a retarded cousin.
fuck, man, it's just a complete waste of time. This movie. It is fun to watch with someone that knows about the series. And
yeah,
stuff
it was
that.
actually kind of fun because we were like, man, this is.
Yeah, it's
like last time I saw it. I saw this like 2, maybe 3 years ago. At this point, I went through 1 through 4, and I told you that halfway through I had to take a break because it sucked donkeys. And then I came back to it the next day and finished it, and I was like, oh, that sucked. But watching this baby all the way through, woo! This is horrible.
The feces just piles up higher and higher as you watch this movie. And it gets to the point where it's just ludicrous.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to enjoy it because otherwise you'll go insane. Literally insane. So yeah, man, this is the movie where they try to make Pinhead into Freddy, basically. And failed miserably at doing it. Now, there is an excuse, possibly, for why this movie is this bad. But I don't think even then it would have been. If they would have kept Anthony Hitchcock's anyway, I think it would have been bad anyway. But originally this movie was going to be directed by Tony Randall, as I said, and it originally was going to be produced by the same producers, or a production company, I should say, that did the first two. But because Clive Barker's production company and New World Pictures went into some form of bankruptcy, Clive Barker's because of what happened with Nightbreed, and New World Pictures because it was eventual with all the weird chaos going on behind the scenes, they collapsed. So the rights went everywhere. And it kind of lingered in, development hell for a while. Development hell for a while. And then another production company bought it. Then another one. And along the way, the script went from its original version to something else. And I will say the original intent for Hellraiser 3 was to continue where Hellraiser 2 left off, in the sense that it was going to follow Julia, which we see at the end. So really, this whole time, Julia's kind of been out there. We don't know jack shit about her. But anyway, it was going to follow Julia. And she turned down the project, probably because she's a fucking clairvoyant medium that saw the future and said, fuck no!
Yep.
And then they went on to a plot about Egypt, the origins of the Cenobites and what have you, which would have been interesting and ambitious, but let's face it, nobody would have given them the budget to make something that big. And then eventually it was whittled down until it became the atrocity that we know it now. By then, the Weinsteins had bought the rights to this thing, and it was the first movie released under the Dimension banner. And it has since stayed at Dimension, the rights to Hellraiser, mostly for the detriment of the series.
Unfortunately, this is probably the movie most people have seen.
Yeah, which
because of how widely available it is.
It is. It's everywhere.
Like if you find those collections, most except for that recent one, that they only have 3 through 1,000 at this point, because. And it's unfortunate because it freaking sucks donkeys.
Yep.
Like, it's horrendous. But yeah, I don't know. Freaking sucks. I hate it.
It's the worst, man. This should have killed the series. Thankfully, we got one more to close off the larger mythology arc, and that's Bloodline, which really is the conclusion of the series. Like, if you're going to watch the Hellraiser story as is the most important elements of it, following the Cenobites and what is established in the first two, then part 4 is the closing chapter. Everything after that are just things that you could shove into the middle. Basically everything after that are just movies and an anthology series is basically what they are. Little personal hell slices.
We're not counting Judgment, of course.
Yeah, we haven't seen that one yet, but basically that's all you get after those. So thankfully, it had one more movie to right the ship, and for the most part, I think it did do that. But we will be revisiting Bloodlines, and maybe my opinion will change about that, because that does have a very fucked up production history as well. But we'll talk about that when we get there. In the meantime, I got one more thing to say about this, and this will be kind of getting its own little short video, not as long as any of these. But, like I mentioned, Clive Barker fucking hates this thing. Having read 3/4 of this already and understood where it is going, the Boom Studios Clive Barker's Hellraiser series, which ran 20 issues in an annual, is Clive Barker's big fuck you to part 3, this is what this is. Not only does it continue after part 1 and 2, but he took the very basic elements of what part 3 was trying to do, but failed miserably at doing. That is the idea of Pinhead coming to Earth and making sense of that, and did it right. This is his big fuck you to, and it's great. It's fantastic. If you want to see a real part 3, now that's not to say that anything in part 3 resembles this, but when you read it, you'll understand why I say that. And this is what could have been. Unfortunately, we have a complete garbage sack of a movie.
Big steaming pile of turds. It's pretty funny that this movie is mostly found on full screen, because I wouldn't have spared that extra little bars. Would have been a waste of space on my screen.
Yep.
It's a piece of shit.
I still don't know why it's only available on full screen for most releases. But, yeah, like you said, who cares?
Yep.
Literally not sad about that.
Nope.
Anyway, this has been Ahab and the Goontick raging over this steaming pile of crap.
Yep.
That is Hellraiser 3. Check us out for the rest of the movie stuff, our rest of our random bullshit. And, of course, for more of the Hellraiser series, stay tuned for that as well. Because right now we're out. Like, share, subscribe, hit those notifications. Bye.